Hi, I'm Callagy of Callagy Law. A lot of times clients ask us about how legal fees impact a lawsuit, and my answer is they're extraordinary how they impact a lawsuit. So in every case, obviously, unless you have so much money that all you want to do is win on principle, and I'll talk about a case like that, which had an interesting result. So first, the amount of money that you're seeking, right? Lawsuits are about typically seeking resolution to a financial dispute. Then there's also a smaller category of lawsuits that really deal with trying to get somebody to do something that they're supposed to do or to stop doing something they're not supposed to do. We'll come back to that. But let's talk about the category of lawsuits that you're fighting over money. If you're fighting over money and you're not on a contingency with your own law firm, then lawsuits are all about how much money that you're spending on them. So a huge consideration from day one when you're talking with your attorney should be a plan that takes into consideration how much you're fighting about. If you're fighting about $10,000, that's a really relatively, respectfully, small amount of money in our legal system to be fighting over. It's very easy to generate a $2,000, $5,000, $10,000 legal bill in not that much time. So one of the things you want to be talking to your attorney about is how that plays into the strategy. And if that's the situation that you're in, you're often dealing with what I call a game of chicken with the other side. How much are they willing to spend, are you willing to spend in this game of chicken, right? And how you want to leverage that process, and quite frankly, how you want to sit down and talk to the other side and say, hey, this is where we are, and let's try to resolve this before legal fees consume the entire amount of money. So how you negotiate up front is huge. A secondary component is the unreasonableness of your adversary in that game of chicken. There are certain adversaries that become incredibly unreasonable, and they'd rather make you pay a lawyer and for them to pay a lawyer than ever pay you in that game of chicken. So that's who you're dealing with. First of all, you need a lawyer to help you snuff out whether or not that's really who they are, because it's a game of chicken. Are they really the person that's going to go 1 inch from the bumper? Or are they a person that's going to get in the road, rev up the car, and not even start it, and get that lawsuit resolved? So initially, it's where are they going to go? How is that game of chicken going to work out? Once you decide that they're really ready to go, and they're ready to go bumper to bumper, maybe even crash head on, the question becomes, are you? Does it become an issue that you'd rather stand on principle, which is your absolute right, and that the legal fees really don't matter because you want to make sure that you're vindicated and justified in the end, right? And that's a very personal decision that you should also talk to a lawyer about, but understand the consequences of that decision, because a lot of times up front it feels that way, and as you proceed, that desire to win on principle becomes less and less. Quick story, we have a case where our client told us, under any cost, I want to make sure this person is held responsible. And held responsible is that they're criminally prosecuted and they go to jail. And that's exactly what happened. But as that process weighed on, in a lot of ways the client became much more interested in the money, the spend, versus the return than they were in getting what they actually wanted, even though we told them repeatedly from the beginning that a lot of those things can happen. This person was terribly wrong, and the things the other person did were awful, and that person ended up going to jail for 30 months in federal prison. But I'm simply telling you that a lot of times that energy, that ego, that need to live on principle begins to wane as legal bills mount and your time and energy mounts. And that's something we're happy to help coach you through and talk about, really to make healthy decisions at the beginning and ongoing throughout the entire case on a monthly basis if need be. So that's really dealing with the hourly take on things. And if you're dealing with a case, by the way, that's over millions and millions of dollars, there's a flip side, which we've dealt in many of those situations. And the flip side is you have to put in context your legal bills and your spending on experts. In a lot of cases, it becomes really important to do a tremendous amount of investigative work, hiring of experts, to make your case present on an influence level at its maximum. We've spent as much as $250,000 on focus groups in a case that was over tens of millions of dollars. So the spend on those cases sometimes, there's in the one case, you don't want to let your ego spend money that's not worthwhile. But on the flip side, if you're dealing with lawsuits that are worth millions and millions of dollars, the workup on those cases is tremendously important of how that case will eventually be presented to the judge and jury. So you have to really think about intelligent spending on the right things, that some of those things do cost money. So that's another huge piece to think about, which we have other videos where we talk about how much should I spend on experts and what should I do. Please look out for those videos. This is generally giving you some issues to think about, and we have more videos you can certainly look through. A huge way, if you're a plaintiff, you've been wronged, to sort of compensate for a defendant's desire to drive up litigation costs to discourage you, is if you can have a pure contingent fee arrangement with your law firm where, hey, they're going to spend all their time, you're not going to compensate them unless they win, and maybe they even pay for the experts, maybe you pay for the experts. That's something else that could be potentially negotiated. And that's one great way to shift the leverage and pressure really to your lawyer, to us if we're your lawyer, or to somebody else that's your lawyer. And then you sort of take away the defense's ability to outspend you. And now it's really your lawyer that's in the crosshairs and the pressure. Another sort of mixed form of that is called a hybrid contingency. And a hybrid contingency is where you're paying part of the lawyer's hourly bill potentially, and you're paying for the cost or some of the costs, and the lawyer's doing it at a discount but gets some percentage to compensate for their risk and their discounted fees. So when you're dealing with, simply put, right, this is an overview video, when you're dealing with thinking of legal fees, there's a myriad of ways that you can help bring your case, your just case, against someone that you're dealing with. And by the way, from the defense side, there's even potential that you can negotiate a flat fee for defense or pay hourly if the case is significant enough. So legal fees are negotiable. There's contingent fees, there's flat fees, there's hourly fees, and those should all be things that you should be able to discuss with your attorney, but also understand, and I say this, respectfully but humbly, that your attorney is a business person too. I'm a business person. I have to make decisions about running my practice, the risks that are associated with it, and a lot of times folks get pretty frustrated understanding that the only thing that attorneys have to trade on is time. And some people do a horrendous job. Some people do a terrific job, and that's something you have to assess. We have other videos on how do I know if my attorney is a good attorney or not. That's a critical question, and that's going to affect how much you pay them in terms of hourly, not only rates, but the amounts of time they spend to do things and the results they're actually producing. So this is just an overview of a myriad of issues for you to think about in terms of legal fees. Please give us a call. We'll help you explore more. I'm Sean Callagy. We're Callagy Law. If you're working with an attorney right now, you're concerned, you can call us on that too and talk about some of the things that are going on. And please follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. We put out great content every day on legal issues and also just general peak performance, communication issues, life issues for you. I'm Sean Callagy, Callagy Law. Have an awesome day.